Hello and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and today was Aerospace Day at the Colorado State Capitol 2019. And so today and all week long here on Connect and Collaborate, we are talking with some major players in the aerospace industry, but what better way to kick off the conversation about aerospace than with Jay Lindell, the Aerospace and Defense Industry Champion.
Well, thank you very much, Alex, for that introduction, and what an amazing day we had. Fantastic. Yeah. Of course, every day in Colorado is a great aerospace day, but especially today, Aerospace Day at the Capitol. It was just wonderful. All the legislators that were there, the businesses with the exhibits that they had, and the proclamation.
Always a good time.
Always a good thing.
Yeah.
And so it highlights aerospace in Colorado. And we are, by the way, the #1 state per capita in the nation.
Number one.
Number one.
Colorado, I feel like we fit well at #1. What do you think?
Well, of course, you know. And if we weren't #1, we probably won't go around saying we're #2.
Well, yeah, exactly. #2's okay, but per capita, we are #1.
We are #1. We have more direct aerospace employees per capita than any other state in the nation.
Which is awesome, and not something that I knew about, quite honestly, until I got this job. I've been in Colorado for about 8 years. I have been here for a little over 2 years, and I didn't know that we were that big in the aerospace industry.
And that's a lot of people say the same thing. When I do a lot of public engagements and I talk about aerospace in Colorado, and they go, wow, we didn't know how big an economy it was and what it meant to our economy.
Yeah.
And it's not only the employees with great paying jobs, but it's the innovation and technology that comes out of aerospace, and it helps our economy so great in other industry sectors, you name it. Electronics, computer science, information technology, bioscience. It's technology that just helps be a catalyst and propel other industries in Colorado.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the manufacturing space.
Manufacturing, yes. And I'll tell you, Alex, since you brought manufacturing up, the aerospace industry is really pulling hard at the requirements for advanced manufacturing, the 3D printing process.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, when I first started this job, I'd be in different businesses in the state, and they were experimenting with little 3D printing machines with plastics. Today, they've got advanced alloys and printing certified materials, 3D printed, certified materials that go on satellites.
Wow. That is fascinating.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. So, and that's just in the short 5 years
really,
that you've been there.
Right.
Yeah. So I imagine that, and to talk a little bit about your background, first of all, the Aerospace and Defense Industry Champion title comes from the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, so OEDIT, as we love to call it. But also you have an aviation background. You were in the Air Force for many years. So I would say a lot of your life has probably been dedicated to aerospace and aviation and the technology.
Yes, really, ever since I was 17, if you will, and I left home, went to the Air Force Academy, and had a long career in the Air Force. I absolutely just loved it, so I've been associated with aerospace most of my life.
Yes. And it's a great space to be in. But I imagine the technology changes in the time that you were 17 until now.
Yeah, it's been amazing how fast it has advanced. Just like we were talking about, just here in the last 5 years in Colorado, the technology change. And it is just an amazing industry to be a part of and to advocate for and promote here in Colorado.
Well, let's advocate and promote, shall we?
Great idea, Alex.
I love that. So you actually, one of the interesting facts that you brought in here to me on the break before we got started in the show was you were telling me about Ball Aerospace, and they hired 913 people.
Right. You know, just in a forum discussion last month, I was there, and they were talking about their business and how they're going, and they've hired 913 new employees last year, and over the past 2 years they have nearly doubled their employees here in Colorado, and that's tremendous growth. This is really robust and dynamic, and Ball is just one of the 9 large primes, if you will, we have here in Colorado. Now, we're heavily government funded, meaning federal government funded, across the industries in Colorado. So a lot of it depends on the defense budget, the NASA budget, to the health of our economy. And those budgets are up. And those budgets are up specifically in space.
Yes.
And so that helps Colorado in our economy, and businesses grow just like ball.
Yes. Yes, it does. And so let's talk economy here. With those jobs, clearly, jobs are opening up. So better for the economy. You take someone that's unemployed, they've been waiting for a job, perhaps they were a trade in manufacturing and they took a little certification to be in advanced manufacturing. Boom, we got you a job.
Well, yes.
All right, I like your caveat there.
But the jobs these are highly skilled jobs, both
Yes.
engineering talent and technician talent that the aerospace companies do require for most of these jobs. And they're great paying jobs,
Yes.
well above the average salary of a position here in Colorado. So they're highly sought after.
Okay.
But I will tell you, one of the weaknesses of aerospace is the lack of skilled, qualified people to fill all these jobs. And we don't have enough of them.
Yeah.
As fast as we are growing in a population, we still cannot get enough highly skilled and qualified people to fill these jobs. And it's not just engineering talent, if you will. It's technician level talent. It's also in various other management positions across the industry that make it all work. And so, yeah, so if you're interested in aerospace, anybody listening here,
Yeah.
there's a job for you in Colorado.
Absolutely. We are open for business.
We are
hiring.
open.
Yeah, I want to talk about some current projects you have going on over at OEDIT. I want to start here with the Advanced Industries Accelerator program.
Right. You know,
Yes.
yeah, within OEDIT and our various grant programs, that's the most popular program that we have. And we do have proof of concept grants, which is really for a business that's really coming together. They've got a technology they're wanting to prove out. So if they partner with a research institution, there's a grant available up to a maximum of $150,000, which has to be matched 1 to 3, meaning if the state grants $150,000, a business has to have $50,000 of cash available from any source. And we can help with that technology development, but partnering through a technology transfer office from a research institution, which is generally a university, community college, or college. So we only ask that you be partnering for this technology development. And then there's a second stage development grant, which is for businesses that have been established. And what we typically see, somebody in business for anywhere 5 to 10 years, they've recently acquired either new technology, a new contract, and they need to expand fairly rapidly. So, and a grant that goes up to $250,000, and that has to be matched 2 to 1. So they have to show a business $500,000 of cash to the $250,000 that we would grant to them. And that can be available from any source. Federal grants generally are show up as cash available or whatever contract they're working on. And as long as they can show the cash available, the grant is available. And then there's the infrastructure grant, which is for a consortium of businesses and partnering with a nonprofit. Again, maybe a research institution, a university, or a industry association, but a nonprofit to promote a specific technology or an innovation that is broad across the industry sector that can be shared to promote the economy. So that's a very popular grant also. In fact, just here in the last 2 days, I've talked to 2 different businesses about this grant and are in the process of applying here in the next week for this grant, because we started January 2nd when the cycle opened, and we close here at a future date that's coming up here real quick on this grant.
All right. So you go directly and talk to these people that are applying for these grants, and you are, and by you, I mean you and your office are directly involved with helping them.
Yes, we are,
Yeah.
and tremendous help in our economy. Normally, I'll introduce them to the grant.
Okay.
And then this is available, but then we have business development specialists that really do the number crunching, if you will, with the businesses that require financial statements and so forth to get the grant approved through the State Economic Development Commission.
Wonderful. I love hearing that because one of the things I think you mentioned earlier that we have a lot of federal funding within our aerospace industries, right? And so there's a lot of government money that's in there. So I think a lot of times people kind of feel closed off from the commercial aerospace side of things, and that's not necessarily true in Colorado.
No, not necessarily true at all. We do have a growing private sector space, and so a lot of this is businesses that have come out of the university very interested in. They maybe have had a federal grant, but they've started a business and now are starting to grow. They just love space. And I'll tell you, across the many industries I meet, the most passionate people tend to be aerospace people and space professionals. They just love it. And they're going to put their heart into their business and grow it. And so it's neat to see that across our whole state with these sort of businesses and get started in just their passion, that exuberance for this industry sector. So a lot of fun.
Oh, I bet it's a lot of fun. And I'm sure your enthusiasm behind it just generates even more. I want to talk about NCAR, UCAR.
Yeah.
So NCAR, I always mess this up. It's the National
Center for Atmospheric Research, and then there's UCAR, the University Center for Atmospheric Research.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking that over. So those are kind of under your belt a little bit, sorta.
Sorta. I only work because they are really affiliated with aerospace and the research that they do. Yeah. But I'll tell you, with our federal labs in Colorado, and did you know we have 30 federal labs in Colorado?
30?
30 federal labs. And you can find a bit of aerospace in about all of them. And so working with the labs, of which NCAR, UCAR is one of the labs here in Colorado, they actually inspire. What happens across is technology they're developing, shared with business, benefits business, government funding, and this technology can spread across multiple businesses that comes out of a lab and helps propel our economies. And that's just one example. Another example of a lab is the Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, affiliated with CU, Colorado University at Boulder.
Yes.
And fantastic capability at LASP.
Yes.
But those are just two examples on the lab side. Also, did you know the Space Weather Prediction Center is here in Colorado?
I did not.
Part of Department of Commerce. But that is another capability right here, resident in Colorado.
Wow. Now, I knew about GPS coming out of Colorado. That's a big thing that helps everyone. But to know about the national weather, or the aerospace weather.
Yeah, especially, this is space weather. So all those solar flare-ups that emit radiation that affect frequencies and that communication channels are on.
Yeah.
And very important to know and understand when a solar flare is going to happen and how it can damage either satellites in orbit or damage communication signals.
Yes, which is very important to know. And I want to switch up our conversation here then, because that's a great parlay into defense.
Right, yes.
Yes, because not only are you the aerospace industry champion, you are the defense industry champion.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, like we commented about aerospace, a lot of people don't know how big defense is in Colorado.
Yeah.
And we did a economic report. We actually, Summit Economics, working on behalf of multiple organizations, did an economic study on defense in Colorado. They went through all of year 2017 and part of 18. The report was issued in August of last year. But it came out with the fact that there is due to defense in Colorado, there's a $36.6 billion economic impact. And not many people really know and understand how big aerospace is in Colorado.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of defense procurement that goes on. And I'll give you an example. You just mentioned GPS. We're the epicenter of the world right here in Colorado for GPS.
Yeah.
Of the 31 satellites in the constellation active today, of the GPS-2 configuration, 19 were built right here in Colorado.
Wow.
All of them by Lockheed Martin. All of them were launched by United Launch Alliance, headquartered right here in Colorado. All of them are controlled by the Air Force Space Command at Schriever Air Force Base, right here in Colorado. And much of the software for the control systems of these satellites and how they operate developed right here in Colorado. So we're the center of the world for GPS. And there's 4 billion devices at any one time receiving the GPS signal. And get that, out of 7 billion people in the world and 4 billion devices receiving it. And we're responsible for it right here in Colorado. And GPS-3, the follow-on to the current constellation, the first satellite was just launched in December, Lockheed Martin satellite. And Lockheed Martin will produce all the satellites, 32, in the next GPS-3 constellation. So a great improvement in accuracy and anti-jam capability with a new configuration. And here we are, center of the world for GPS. And I've talked to economists. They go, what is the economic impact for GPS? And I go, it'd be immeasurable. We can't calculate.
Yeah.
It's so significant. And so here we are, essentially the home of GPS in Colorado with immeasurable economic impact to the world.
Absolutely. Can you imagine? I can't imagine not having GPS.
I know. And even though I've been here many times to the studio, I used it to
get here.
To get here.
Well,
yeah.
Because at any given time, traffic is going to change.
Traffic, yeah.
Yeah, and that's who helps us get that information? GPS.
GPS.
I love hearing about that, and I find it interesting that you mentioned the GPS under the defense. But there was a reason that we put GPS under defense, right?
Right. And originally it was all about it was a defense program. It still is. It's a defense-funded program. And it wasn't until 1995 timeframe under President Clinton that he issued a directive to provide the signal free to the world. And so here we are, and the economic return has been far more significant than our investment into the system. So great decision, and glad that we can benefit the whole world right here from Colorado.
I know, it's actually so fascinating to think, when a lot of us think about aerospace, we think about being a tiny speck on a major planet, and that planet is a tiny speck in the major universe. But the people that are helping the rest of us get around the world are a tiny speck here in Colorado.
Right. Yeah. Here we are.
I love it.
Amazing.
It's amazing. The longer I live here, the more I find out amazing things about this place, and just several other reasons to keep living here.
Right.
I want to get into your space-based infrared systems. We talked about GPS-3. This one is another satellite.
Right,
Yes.
right. Another defense program, important for our national defense. It's missile warning for our nation. But right here in Colorado, right here at Buckley Air Force Base, operates and controls the SBIRS, Space-Based Infrared System satellite system right here. And so how important are we to our nation's defense? And along with that is the advanced extremely high frequency satellites developed here in Colorado and controlled again right here out at Schriever for this constellation. But this is strategic communications, which is encrypted communications for strategic forces, if you will, and presidential communications. So highly specialized encrypted signals out of these satellites, important to our national defense.
I like that answer. Can we go into further detail about what it does?
No.
Okay. I thought I'd try. I do have a quick question for you personally, and you probably won't be able to answer this either, but there has been talk of a space force.
There has been. It's been in the news, and Yeah, there's various opinions about the Space Force and so forth, but I'll just say that, you know, anything that benefits our capability as a nation to more efficiently and effectively defend ourselves, we're all in.
Awesome. I like hearing that. Let's talk other realms of space and more satellites that we have here. Orion. One of our big ones.
Hey, we're the center of the world right here for the next human-rated spacecraft that someday may take us to Mars.
I want to be on that.
Well, it's probably somebody younger than both you and I.
Why do you have to say such things?
No.
I'm just kidding, but it will be. But I have interestingly heard from several people it's probably somebody that's in elementary school right now.
Yes, probably
which
somebody
is
that's
still very exciting. I hope it's my niece or nephew.
There you go. But we are for the built right here by Lockheed Martin, the Orion program. But it's not just Lockheed Martin; they're the prime contractor for the program. But it's over 200 other suppliers right here in Colorado that furnish the materials and items that go into assembling the Orion spacecraft. And someday we'll be taking astronauts beyond low Earth orbit and out past to a lunar gateway and beyond a lunar gateway to Mars.
Yes. Which is exciting stuff. And I literally just got goosebumps when you said Mars. For one, I'm excited to see what we can do with Mars and Mars 2033. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about Dream Chaser.
Dream Chaser, yes. Yeah, Dream Chaser is built by Sierra Nevada Corporation Space Systems right here in Colorado. And they're on a contract with NASA to provide cargo missions to the International Space Station. Now, we're a couple years away until they will start their missions going out to the International Space Station, but they're well underway to development and final operation and testing. So a great program. Here we are right in Colorado, involved in one-of-a-kind spacecraft that will take off vertically, so by a rocket, on top of a rocket, get to the space station. And more importantly, it'll bring back equipment, experiments back to Earth and land like a space plane.
Yes.
So it's not a splashdown in the ocean or it burns up in the atmosphere. It comes back like the shuttle, if you will. Now it's unmanned spacecraft that comes back and lands with the experiments on board that are coming back and so forth, things that want to be brought back from the space station and land like an airplane.
Which is so fascinating and beyond what I think a lot of people thought we would hit.
Right.
This day and age.
And right here in Colorado.
Right here in Colorado. Speaking of right here in Colorado, as we mentioned today was Aerospace Day at the Colorado State Capitol. OEDA has been a sponsor of this for a very long time, since its birth, as has Manufacturers Edge, who we're going to talk with Tom Bagnetz in the next segment. Colorado Business Roundtable is a sponsor. Any reason why more people should get involved and be sponsors of Aerospace Day 2020?
Well, because it's an exciting time. It's a historic inflection point for our nation and for Colorado. And space is big business in Colorado. Creates a lot of jobs for our economy, great paying jobs for our economy. And we mentioned, you'll find the most passionate people about their industry who love to talk about it. And you're so inspired just hearing them talk about it that, wow, I got to be involved somehow. And there's multiple industry associations, visiting groups to be involved with it. And it's just a great time to be in space.
Yes, it absolutely is. Jay, it's always a pleasure to have you in studio. Thank
well,
you.
Alex, I always love talking to you. I know I get excited just talking about it here.
Well, that's why you're a champion. Thank you so much, Jay. And thank you for listening today on Connect and Collaborate. Be sure to like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. Find this podcast and more at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. Type in aerospace and you'll find all of the shows that we've done on aerospace. Thank you so much, Jay.
Well, thank you, Alex. My pleasure.